How did he make an egg appear, vanish, and reappear? Well, you can all go on YouTube, type in egg trick, and you'll find hundreds of videos of various magicians performing that very trick. You may even find some magicians explaining how that trick is done. But if you were to do that, that would totally ruin the mystery, the suspension of disbelief. But what if someone really wanted to learn how to become a magician or learn a cool magic trick? How do you learn it today in this society? And how did they learn it in the past? Thousands of years ago, shamans of various cultures obtained hidden information and secrets and observations about nature. And they would use that information to make various predictions. At times, they will use various simple, primitive techniques to create the illusion that they had magical powers. And if you wanted to learn any of these techniques, you either A, had to be born of a family of practitioners or shaman, magicians, or they had to select you and choose a particular person within the community or the village in order to train and teach those techniques. This information was kept secret, it was guarded for the primary purpose that if it got out how they really performed their magic, they will lose their status and influence within the community at large. Now, this was an era, thousands of years ago, where magic as a form of entertainment, religion, and science all intersected. Then hundreds, maybe thousands of years later, Reginald Scott wrote a book called The Discovery of Witchcraft. This was the first book that was ever published that explained how magicians, charlatans, and those who claimed to practice witchcraft accomplished their feats. Now, he wrote this for two purposes. Number one, to debunk any claims that any wizard, magician, accomplished their feats through some type of supernatural powers. Secondly, he wrote this book to prevent the unnecessary execution of those who were deemed by the church practicing witchcraft. See, during those times, if you were accused of practicing witchcraft, you were bonded by the hands and feet and submerged in a body of water for a period of time. If you died, you were considered innocent. But if you lived, you were considered a practitioner of witchcraft because you survived that ordeal, and then they will burn you at the stake. It was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. So he saves hundreds of lives just by writing that book. But from the 1584 publication of that book to the late 19th century, there was a proliferation of magic books. And at this point, there was a separation of magic as a form of entertainment, medicine, science, and religion. And you can find many books written about the various aspects of magic, whether it was close-up magic, parlor magic, stage magic, or grand illusions. However, the information was still guarded, because in order to access these books, you either had to become a member of one of the magic organizations or know a magician who had one of these books. And sometimes people just didn't want to make that effort just to get a book, read, and try to decode the jargon in the language to figure out how the trick was accomplished. Now let's fast forward to modern day society. First with the invention of the VHS, DVD, and now the internet. Did this change the landscape how magic is learned today? And the verdict is still out, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Today, magic is easily accessible worldwide. Just by a click of a button or a tap of a screen, you can pull up videos of various performers performing at an event, a birthday party, or in a huge theater. You can also find various magicians exposing the secrets of the craft. Now, although it's totally impossible to expose every single secret of magic, because magic has existed over thousands of years, and people are still coming up with creative and different ways of creating different effects. However, I really don't think to some degree that this is a good thing. Why? Just by watching a performer on the screen demonstrating the trick and explaining it, it's a very passive way of learning. And we're producing a different type of magician. The type of magician who lacks stage presence and performing in front of a live audience. We're producing a type of magician that only mimics and copies exactly what he sees on the screen, line for line, word for word, movement for movement, trick for trick. It has created a world for magicians where if a magician steps on stage and performs, someone can easily say, oh, I know that trick, I've seen that trick, oh, I could pull it up right here. He's doing it exactly how you're doing it and saying it the same way. We're producing clones. There's no artistic merit, creativity into producing, performing magic if the sole way of learning is just watching on the screen. However, there's some good things about the way magic is being taught and learned today. One of those things is that it preserves the legacy of magicians of the past. We could look at videos of magicians and we can learn more about their history. We could learn about their contributions to society. Like Henry Box Brown, who was a slave in Virginia, who packed himself in a crate and shipped himself to Philadelphia, and he lived the rest of his life as a free man performing magic. Or a European magician who prevented a war just by performing a simple magic trick. And with the invention of technology as we use it today, we're able to learn about magic more, how it affected our world, not just as a form of entertainment. And that is a beautiful thing. The second pro about learning magic online is that it shortens the learning curve for learning difficult and complex effects and methods. You could pause the video. You can look at the position of a performer's hands. You can see the block and how he sets his props. And those things are very crucial in performing for a live audience. So the verdict is still out. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? We don't know because technology is still evolving in how we're educating and learning magic today. So what is the future? I cannot read minds. I cannot predict the future. I can only create the illusion of that. But it will be exciting to see what type of magicians we will have in the future and how we can integrate technology and magic together to produce something new, fresh, and unique. I like to close my talk with performing an effect that was taught to me by one of my good friends, an elder magician.